Cost Cutters is your family's full-service salon specializing in cuts, colors, and curls. Visit any one of our professional stylists today and get the look you want for less.
2.
Welcome to Making the Grade. I'm Dave Dicke. We're glad you could join us today. And we're joined by a special guest. We have new Winona Area Public Schools Superintendent Richard Dahman with us. And Rich, it's nice to have you here.
Thank you, Dave. I'm excited to be here.
How are you finding Winona so far?
I'm really enjoying it. I've been in the community for about 6 weeks now, and things both getting situated at home and things on the job are going very well.
I was fortunate enough, I got to meet you a little earlier about graduation. When my daughter graduated, we happened to sit right next to you. So hopefully we weren't too rowdy for you.
It was a well-behaved crowd, both in my area and in general. And I was really fortunate to be able to get over here for graduation ceremony. I hadn't officially started work yet, but it worked out well to get to watch us celebrate our 2016-2017 graduates.
So where are you from originally?
I've lived in Minnesota all my life. I was born and raised just upriver from here in Lake City, and spent my entire childhood there. It was really a fun place to grow up, right on the river. I remember some family trips to Winona as a child, and also a real strong basketball rivalry between Lake City High School and Winona Cotter back in the late 70s and early 80s that I was a part of. So I'm used to the river towns. I really enjoy this part of the state. It's a beautiful part of the state, so I'm happy to be back into this area.
So where were you at before you came back to this area?
Dave, I spent most of my working career with Mankato Area Public Schools. I went to Mankato State for school after high school and stayed in that area. I started out as a math teacher, a middle school and high school math teacher, and I did some coaching. Both in the St. Clair School District and then in the Mankato School District. And I decided to go into administration, became a middle school principal, and spent 10 years as a middle school principal in Mankato. Then I got my superintendent's licensure and spent the last 4 years as the school superintendent in Medford.
What's that transition going from a principal to the superintendent?
You know, there's definitely different responsibilities. You're one more step removed from the classroom, and I miss the teaching aspect of being an educator. But it is, when you move from a teacher to the principalship, you have a little bit more ownership in what's going on in your school building. And then as I made that change from being a building principal to being a superintendent, again there, you have a little bit more oversight into what's going on in the school, the whole school district, and a lot more communication with the entire community.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you, sort of some of the things you like to do, about your family and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I have 2 sons, and one of them has a connection here with Winona. He's a Winona State grad, and he was very excited when he heard that I had taken the job here with Winona Area Public Schools, because he had a wonderful experience both in the city of Winona and with Winona State. He's an elementary education graduate. He graduated in 2014 from Winona State. And he's been teaching elementary school overseas for the past 3 years. Just started a new job in Monterrey, Mexico. He's going to be teaching 6th graders there, and I guess he actually has about a week and a half of school in already. They've just started. So he's kind of the adventurer of the family. He's been all over the world in his 2.5 years that he's been out of Winona State. And then I also have a 22-year-old son, Nick, who is up in the Minneapolis area. He's a University of Minnesota graduate in computer science.
Very good. Now you grew up in a river town. Do you have any aspirations to be on the river? Or you do any fishing and that sort of thing?
You know, I like to be out on the water. I like to kayak, canoe. I don't fish a lot, but I think I might have to start doing a little bit more of that now. My favorite memories of fishing when I was a child on the Mississippi River with my grandparents. We used to spend a lot of time in their fishing boat. And I also like to do a lot of outdoor activities. I like to play basketball, ride bike, hike. I like to stay active. During the winter months, I'll snowshoe a little bit to
Very nice.
keep me moving. But I also I want to be very involved in the Winona community. I like to take part in community activities, school district activities. Folks will see me at a lot of ball games and concerts and theater performances, and both in the school district and around the community.
Now, what got you interested in teaching? Was that something that you've wanted to do ever since you were younger, or is that something that kind of bit you a little bit later on?
It was always an interest of mine. I knew going into after high school that that's what I wanted to do. So I got into the education program at Mankato State University, and I also it was a good fit because I had a strong interest in mathematics too. I enjoyed especially the data and statistics, that area of mathematics. So initially, when I got my teaching degree, I taught both in the middle school and high school, and then once I moved into the Mankato School District, I spent quite a few years teaching middle school math. And I really enjoy working with students of all ages. My teaching experience is with middle school and high school students, but I enjoy working with students of all ages, and I really enjoyed the coaching aspect when I was doing that piece too.
Why math? I'm not a math guy. I'm more of a history guy, and it seems like
Sure.
you're either math or you're history, but is there anything that really drew you to just say, you know what, I think I want to teach math?
You know, math tends to be a subject that people either really like or have a little bit of a dislike of. But it's important that everyone has a strong background in mathematics, both oftentimes in many jobs, but oftentimes just in living your life, you need to have that background. So I enjoyed working with students that maybe didn't like math so much, but helping them learn that even if it wasn't their best subject or their favorite subject, that it was an area that would suit them well in life, and developing those lifelong skills.
Yeah, unfortunately, math stays with you your whole life. You can't get away from it.
That's correct.
So let's talk a little bit about now coming into Winona Area Public Schools. What are some of your goals now as we get ready to start the school year?
You know, for this initial year, really 3 goals. And they tie together a little bit because there's always a little overlap. One is to make sure that we are building strong relationships and continuing some strong relationships with the community. So for me as the superintendent, a lot of that is making connections with folks in the community, parent groups, city officials. We have a strong higher ed presence here in the Winona area. And I want to make sure that we're making connections with those people and with our business and manufacturing community. It's really important for us as students graduate from Winona Area Public Schools that they have the skills and abilities to move into what they're going to be doing through the rest of their lives, and also that the direction that they decide to go matches the jobs that are available out there. So one goal is making those connections in the community. Another goal is really around our financial status in the school district. We have built a bit of a deficit spending over the last few years, so I know that prior to me coming here, they went through a budget cut process, and we're anticipating over the next few years to be looking at additional cuts to our budget. Enrollment has dropped quite a bit over the last 15 to 20 years with Winona Area Public Schools. So we're hoping, and it's looking like that maybe has stabilized in the enrollment, but we have to make sure that we get our budget in a place where it's sustainable for the future. And then both of those tie into the biggest goal, and that's to ensure academic achievement for all of our students. That word "all" is really important to me as we talk with staff and with the community about where we want to be with our schools and meeting the needs of every learner, whether they're high achievers or students that struggle in school, making sure that we challenge every learner and that we have supports in place to help them be successful.
You mentioned academic achievement. The MCA scores, They always seem to be kind of in the middle somewhere. Is there any, what are your thoughts on helping to enhance those scores?
Yeah, that they're on our forefront right now as the state just released those scores, and those are the math, the reading, and the science scores from the students in the grades that are tested from this previous school year. And as we dig into that data, we're seeing pockets of areas where we do extremely well and other areas where we definitely have need for improvement. And it ties into what I spoke to as one of my goals, is to ensure that high achievement for every student and every group of students. So we really will dig into those scores, and there isn't any reason that students in Winona Area Public Schools can't score at least as high or even higher than the average score from students around the state of Minnesota.
It always just seems to be one of those sticky points or sticking points, and it's always been kind of a puzzle, I guess. And how do you crack that? So.
It is, and we realize that those test scores are important for students because they measure students' ability to meet the standards in those areas, especially in the English language arts and the math and the science. They're areas that students are going to need to be successful in if they're going to move forward in life and have successful lives out of high school. So they really are a focus for us. We do remember that they aren't the only thing that we're doing in the schools. We teach a lot of other things. We work with students on their social emotional health, and in addition to the academics, but they do play an important piece in our being able to track how we're doing in preparing our students.
All right, very good. Just real quick, we've got a couple of minutes left. You kind of walked into, I don't want to say a maelstrom, but Winona's connection to their neighborhood schools is very, very strong. And now we're talking about maybe closing a couple of those schools down here in the years to come. How do you feel kind of walking into that?
Yeah, it's a process that's been going on for a few years,
Right.
Looking at our facilities. As I mentioned earlier, our enrollment has dropped considerably over the last 15 to 20 years. And we are at a point right now with Winona Area Public Schools where the number of square feet per student that we have is considerably higher than comparable districts. And our buildings are fairly expensive to keep open if they're not full with our declining enrollment. So the board has passed a vote to move forward with a referendum, so that'll go to the voters in November. We're going to be spending a lot of the upcoming months, September and October, communicating information with the community around where we are, what our needs are, and what it would look like if that referendum were to pass, or if it were to fail, what would be our next steps as a school district.
Very good. We're out of time for our segment. Rich, it's a pleasure to meet you again, see you again, and best of luck here in the upcoming school year.
Thank you, Dave. I'm excited to be here and looking forward for the start of the school year.
Great, really great. We'll be back with our second segment. We'll meet some assistant principals when we come back here on Making the Grade.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Perfect. Getting the right look at the right price
Perfect.
is always in style. At Cost Cutters.
Located in the professional building in the Winona Mall, 507-454-6030.
What's a Southern girl? It's waking up before the sun rises. It's loving the simple things in life, like the dirt roads that lead you home. It's working hard to get what you want. It's hanging your own stands, breaking your own ground, and strategizing every little move for that one moment when everything you've worked for is standing right in front of you. Even if I fail a million times, I keep pushing myself till I'm exhausted, filthy, and about to give up. And that's when the adrenaline hits.
Effects has the movies.
Take a look at the wall.
Look at that.
Look.
Effects has the movies.
What? Hey, look, it's effects.
Effects has the movies. Effects.
This is amazing.
Effects has the movies. Effects has the movies. Effects has the movies. Effects has the movies.
Welcome back to Making the Grade. I'm Dave Dicke, your host for today, and we're joined now on set by two of the new assistant principals in the Winona Area Public Schools District. Right immediately on my left is Dr. Chai Lee, and he is the assistant principal at Winona Senior High School. And next to him is Andrew Kappel, and Andrew is the assistant principal at the Winona Area Learning Centers. Gentlemen, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
So I guess we really didn't decide who was going to go first, so Chai, since you're right next to me, the luck of the draw. Whereabouts were you at before you came to Winona Area Public School? What were some of the schools that you've worked at in the past?
Well, thank you so much for the question. I was a Winona Senior High School student in the 80s, and so after graduating from Winona State, I took a job in Minneapolis. I taught in Minneapolis for 7 years, and I was principal in Minneapolis also. So previously, I was at West St. Paul as an avid district director.
So this is a homecoming for you.
It is. I've been wanting to come back here. I've learned so much from the school district, and I want to come back here.
Oh, that's awesome. Very good.
Yeah.
Right.
Andrew, how about you?
I'm coming to you from Rochester, so I've been there the last several years as both a teacher and an instructional coach. Prior to that, did some subbing in the cities and owned a business up there as well. So kind of a different route to education, but going from the business world into education a little later in life. But that's where I'm coming from.
You find your calling when you find your calling.
That's right. You do.
So as an assistant principal, we'll throw this one at Andrew now.
Yeah.
As assistant principal, what does your day consist of? I'm sure you're not just bossed around by the principal.
Absolutely. I think that's different every day. As an assistant principal, really your job is to make sure the well-being of the students and the staff in the building is taken care of and into account. So it could be different depending on the situation. With the number of students that we have in our buildings, there's so many different life stories there that you're impacting every day, and so it changes. Lately, it's been a lot of meetings, being new to the district, getting caught up on things, but I think we're both looking forward to the students being there and really having that difference day to day.
Is that kind of the same for you, Chai, in the high school setting?
Yes, we have more students, so I'm looking forward to improve our relationship with the families and with the students and getting to know them, finding out what their needs are so that we can support them, we can improve our data, our test scores.
So how does this job as an assistant principal relate to what you were doing previously before you came to Winona?
I've been principal and assistant principal in other school districts, so it's not much different. The student populations are, some kind of different, but I think the needs are similar. And so, again, the best way that we could do is to really support our students to make them feel comfortable about coming to school, ready to learn, support our teachers so that they can provide the best instruction that they can.
How about you, Andrew?
Well, I think that the previous experience in the business realm, some of the paperwork and different things that we have to do definitely relates there, but also my last position was an instructional coach position. So I was in teachers' classrooms every day, different teachers working with a different group of students and teachers every day to work on improving our practices to best impact kids. And I really do see the role of a principal or assistant principal as a big piece is that, making sure that your teachers are impacting kids at high levels. And so carrying over that work to make sure that I'm empowering students and teachers to do the best every day.
I know conflict is kind of an everyday occurrence in school. What's your approach to conflict resolution?
I like to prevent conflict, and so even right now, we are looking at possible ways to really support our students to make them feel good about coming to school by saying that I think building relationships with students, with staff, to make sure that they know our expectations, have good communication with them. And if it should come to a decision about conflict, then we have to go back to our district policies and follow that. But I think the best way to do is to make sure that our students and our staff understands the policies, and so that when it comes to that, they know how to help us solve the problem. And so I'm a solution person, and I want to make sure that the staff and the students know why certain expectations need to be carried out.
Yeah, how about you, Andrew?
I would agree with what you're saying, Chai, is being proactive and trying not to get to the point where we're so far down a conflict that there's no end in sight. And so working together with students to build that relationship first, so that when we do have that conflict piece, we can use some restorative practices to bring them back to a resolution that is understandable on both sides, whether they're best friends at the end of the day or agreeing that they can walk away mutually and get along according to different policies and things, as Chai alluded to there as well. But really working with students too, as a learning experience in those conflicts, as well as the academic setting and learning from all aspects in the schools.
When I went to high school, I went to a small high school, and that building relationship with the superintendent and the principal and even the staff in the office, it was easier just because we didn't have the volume of students. So how do you go about building those relationships when you have hundreds of students that you will potentially interact with?
For me, I spend a lot of time in the morning to greet them when they walk into the building. I would greet them by the bus, say hi to them, get to know them, spend a lot of time during lunchtime with the students, sit down with certain groups of students each day to get to know who they are, and I think that is the time that I get to listen to their personal stories, to listen to their family issues, and so I get to know who they really are. In the classroom, I don't hear that, and so I want to spend those times to get to know the students. And at that time, the students can ask me personal questions like, what do you like to do? What do you eat at home? Things like that, and so get to know each other.
Very good. How about you, Andrew?
I have a little different scenario than Chai here. We have just over 100 students in our building, and so it's really being intentional to get out and get to know them and find out their interests and dig in on a deeper level than just a hi in the hallway or a hi in passing, but knowing what they're doing and showing up at some events here and there when they have things going on outside of school, letting them know that we care, and that'll build the relationship with them and help them know on a deep level that they're cared about.
What about motivating students? Let's and we'll start with you.
Yeah.
How do you get? I mean, there's some kids that don't need any motivation. There's some kids that you kind of got to drag them along.
Absolutely. I think the thing about motivating students is if I personally went to school and sat in a chair all day long and didn't have the opportunity to do things that I was interested in, I wouldn't be motivated either. And so it's finding those options for students to have real input in their education decisions, researching topics that they're interested in, getting hands-on with their interests as well, and finding those opportunities to make sure that they have that inclusive education with their interests in mind. Again, it goes back to your previous question, though, too. Relationships go so far. With staff, with other students in the building, and building a safe environment where they're accepted and willing to take those risks to show their interests. So I think that's a lot of the motivational piece, but it's really a case-by-case basis with students.
Yeah.
What you, Chai?
Yeah, in a larger high school like Winona Senior High, it is important that we also support our teachers to incorporate students' interests in the daily lesson plan, so that when they teach a lesson, the students also can feel related to each lesson. For example, if you teach math, how do you relate that to sports, to other things that students like to do? And so one of the things that we are working on is what we call PLC. So we work with our teachers to support that, as well as support the students outside to get them into the classroom, feel good about it. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about how do you draw that line, and I'm sure it's a fine line between being a source of discipline, but also being a source of empowerment and encouragement. Do you have any secrets for that?
The secret is to get to know the students and to make sure that they know you. For me, I think the relationship, we talk about relationship, is very, very important. When the students feel good about me, they want to talk to me, then I can really talk to them about the expectations, as well as showing them that we care. That we are there to support them. And if we have that closeness with the students, then usually we are successful with that. When it comes to the students, to student discipline, the students already know that our expectation is in a certain way, and the student has violated that, and so they would accept that.
That's a tricky line sometimes. I go back to when I was in school and the principal was the disciplinarian. And if you were going to the principal's office, it was a bad thing. And so I think it's really working with that line of saying, this office, just because you're talking to me, or whether it's in the office or out of the office, it's not a bad thing. And that goes back to a lot of the previous questions on relationship, developing those relationships so kids know that you're a safe person to talk to, but yet there's going to be that accountability when it needs to be there with discipline issues or academic issues, and really being a counselor in those situations, and approaching them as a learning situation as well, not just a punitive situation, but really an opportunity for a student to learn, and helping a kid walk through that and explain it with them.
We got a couple of minutes left. What are some of the things you're looking forward to most here as you start your tenure here at Winona Senior High?
I'm looking forward to the students coming to the school, enjoying all those things, and also I am a activity guy. I want to be a part of all the sports and things like that. So in the last year I was a district director, and I did not have a lot of opportunities. So this is my home school, so I'm looking forward to enjoying the students and the staff.
How about you, Andy?
I'd agree, Chai. Getting the students in the building, and I said that the other day. Getting some of the systems under our belt, but once the students are here, that's really what lights me up and gets me excited about what we do. I think it'll be great to get to know the students and to really see individual victories, if you want to call them, and learning experiences where they have a breakthrough moment of realizing something new and overcoming and showing their learning in new ways. So that's what excites me. That's what got me into it. So that's really what I'm excited about Winona too.
Well, we are so glad that you are both a part of our district, and it's going to be a fun year, but I'm sure there'll be some challenges along the way as well, but we wish you both the best of luck, and welcome back to Winona, and welcome to Winona, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
So our guests have been Dr. Chai Lee and Andrew Kappel, both assistant principal, Andrew at the Winona Area Learning Center, and Chai at Winona Senior High School. And that'll wrap up our inaugural edition of Making the Grade for this school year. Next week, or next month I should say, you will see Superintendent Dahman taking this chair and continuing that tradition of the superintendent hosting the program. So thank you for joining us, and we hope you will join us again for Making the Grade on HBC TV 25.